Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Today I thought I would show you my process of how I design characters. And yeah, this is just my way of doing this. This is not a tutorial, this is just me sharing my process. It's kind of a follow me, like follow along, I don't know what. Alright, so today I'm gonna design a character for my new Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and if you don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, you can obviously still watch this video. This is about character design, not about D&D. So yeah, because she is for that new D&D campaign, I already knew a few things about her before starting to design her. I think it's really important that you know at least a little bit about your character before you start designing, because their personality and what they do and who they are will influence their design. My character in this case is called Hedwig, and in the campaign she is part of a medieval city guard, and her job in that city guard is basically the equivalent of a coroner. So she spends a lot of time investigating crime scenes and cutting up dead bodies to find out how they died. The first thing I do usually when I design characters, which I personally didn't do for this character, but I'm still gonna tell you because it might be interesting for you. The first thing is to get whatever is in your mind out on paper. So if you make up your character, you probably have like a general image of her in your head, and I like to just take that image and put it onto paper, just my first idea, whatever pops into my head about her. It doesn't have to be very specific. Sometimes I already have a very clear idea of her clothes. Sometimes I might want to explore their body type a little bit and make little sketches about, you know, what kind of body type they might have, things like that. And that is not a very important step. I think for me it's nice to get like the first ideas out, because they can be, don't have to be, but can be your most original, because they are the most pure. They're not influenced by any sort of reference that you look at later. They come purely from your mind and the visual library that you already have built up in your mind. And I think it's nice to kind of get those out first. I skipped it with her design because I already had a pretty clear image of her in my mind and I didn't feel the need to sketch it out. So the first thing that I actually did for this character was to jump into Pinterest and collect reference. I use Pinterest a lot because to me it's just a place where a lot of things are, you know, there's a lot of information out there and I can just very easily pin it, and then it's on my little pin board and I have it on all my devices, and to me that's just, you know, practical, but you don't have to use it. So I go on there and I search for reference, and there are a few things that I think you have to kind of keep in mind when looking for reference. There are a few, I don't want to say rules, but a few tips that you could keep in mind when you search for reference. The first thing would be, and that's the thing that I learned in university, is to first think big and then get smaller with your thinking. Don't jump into like the little nitty details. Don't search for little flower patterns that you want her outfit to have or something like that. Think bigger and think outside the box as well. For Hedwig here, I didn't really think too much out of the box. I'm going to show you my Pinterest board in a second. The setting that she's in is already established. It's a D&D setting, so it's a pretty generic fantasy world and I wanted to stick to that. So I started with things that weren't necessarily related to clothes. Actually, the first things that I looked at were these medical illustrations from medieval doctors, and obviously that's not something that I would incorporate directly into her design, but it's something that inspires me and that kind of brings me into the mindset for this character, because that would be the kind of stuff that she draws in her notebooks, right? And I looked at stuff that medieval doctors would use at that time, these portraits of people in medieval times, like scholars that all wore glasses. And so I thought, okay, I really like the idea of her having these kind of glasses. So I pinned some of those. At first I was like searching for medieval doctors, but that was really hard to find, and usually those people back then were male. So I ended up searching for medieval midwives, because that's pretty much the closest thing to a doctor that females could become back then. And they were wearing these aprons that I really liked. You know, more clothing. Looking at Viking stuff, things where I liked the shapes and patterns. Kind of try to stay open for everything, and that can give you the coolest ideas, really. Another tip that I have that is quite important, I think even more important than what I just said, is don't look at drawings and designs of other people right away. It's totally fine to look at other people's drawings and find inspiration in them. I do that too, but that can get quite dangerous in that sense, where you might only see these drawings and these things that were already designed, and you just kind of end up Frankensteining things together, like, oh, I like this part of this drawing and I like this part of this drawing and this part of this drawing, so I'm gonna take all these parts and put them together into my drawing. And that's not really very original. It's just you kind of taking things from other people and putting them together. Look for your own inspiration first, things that you want to incorporate into your drawing, and then you can look at other people's like interpretation of maybe that same character or a similar character and get inspired by that as well. Okay, so once I'm happy with the reference that I found, I'm gonna go into my drawing program, or get out my sketchbook, whatever you prefer, and then I'm gonna sketch. I usually make a little base first, I just sketch out her pose, and that can be anything really. Sometimes I try to make the pose a little bit more character specific, so if I have a character that's very cocky, I might try to draw him like that or something like that. I would definitely recommend you make a simple pose, because if you draw like a action pose or something really cool, that can be quite hard to draw the clothes on later and to do the design work. So I take that pose and I copy it and paste it a couple of times on that page, and that's when I start designing. And now it's honestly just a matter of exploration. Just draw whatever comes into your mind, look at your inspiration board, look at things that you want to incorporate, just let your mind flow. A very good tip that I also learned in university, back in the university I took a character design class, and there's something that my teacher said that I thought was very helpful, is that when you move on to the next base, once you have finished one drawing and you move on, you don't have to try to make it look very different, you don't have to pump out a completely unique new design with every try. It is totally fine to go to the next base and then look at your previous one and think, okay, what are the things that I liked about this drawing? What are the things that I don't like? And you can take over to the new base the kind of things that you liked and maybe modify them a little bit and keep out the ones that you don't like and add new ones. And that way you kind of keep modifying your ideas and kind of polishing them, So don't pressure yourself into thinking you have to like invent something new with every base. Obviously you want to have like different ideas and things and not draw the same picture over and over again, but it's totally fine to look at your other drawings that you did and take things from there and kind of match them together. That's what I do all the time, and it works really well for me, and that's how you get a lot of drawings too. I would always sit in uni and think, like, we had this board of people that went to uni before us, and some people they were able to do hundreds of drawings for one prompt, and I never understood how they could do that, because I always tried to make every new design amazing, unique, and something new. And then when my teacher told me that it is fine to modify the designs that you already have and explore those things more, that's when it clicked with me, and I thought, yes, that's how those people get this many designs done, because they don't wreck their brains by trying to think of something new all the time. They modify things, and that's how you can get a lot of drawings done. So how many drawings you do in the end is absolutely up to you. I mean, I would recommend doing more than maybe 2, because you know, the first idea that you have usually isn't your best. Try to do as many as you can, but if you get to a point where you can't think of something new, then stop. You know, you have kind of spent all your brain juice on that design and it's fine and you can move on. So what I mean by moving on is putting together your final design, and for that I take the vase again and put it next to it, and then I look at all my designs that I did and I take the things that I like from all these designs and kind of put together my final design. Sometimes that's very close to the last of the little designs that I did, of the little drawings. Sometimes it's something entirely new because I have a little bit of distance from those smaller drawings now and can kind of look at all of them together and see, oh, you know what, I actually really like what I did in the second one there, but if I combine it with the thing that I did in the sixth drawing here, it could look really cool, you know, something like that. For Hedwig, as you can tell, I've kind of gotten stuck with the idea that I really wanted her to have some sort of apron, maybe some sort of leather apron, because in the game Dungeons & Dragons she's wearing a leather armor, and I thought that maybe it could be really cool to give her a leather apron that kind of acts as an armor, but it's very, you know, customized to her job as a scientist. And I also really like the idea of her having some sort of gloves, obviously the glasses too, and messy hair. So those were things that I really want to incorporate. And once I got to the last design, like her final design, I also realized that I think it would be really cool to give her some sort of really eccentric shirt, because while drawing, I always had to think about my science teachers at school, and for some reasons a lot of my science teachers were always wearing these very eccentric, like, Hawaiian shirts with all sorts of weird patterns on them and colors that clashed a little bit, and I kept thinking about that, and I thought it would be so funny to add to her kind of eccentric touch by giving her some sort of medieval equivalent of an Hawaiian shirt with bright colors and like flowery patterns, and I think that really added to her character a lot. Alright, so once I'm happy with the final sketch, I think about colors. I honestly can't give too many tips about that because I do think that I have kind of a good grasp on colors, at least that's what I found over the years, but I'm not perfect and I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time. So, but what I did for this character, which might be a good thing to start when you don't know what colors you want or how to pick them or something like that, I stuck to a color scheme. And if you don't know anything about color schemes, I actually have a 3-part series on my channel about colors, so I will link them. There's also one part that goes into detail about color schemes and which ones there are and how to use them and things. And I got a little bit stuck with this character and didn't really know how to move on because nothing really clicked for me, you know. There were color schemes that came like close to what I thought could look good, but there was nothing where I looked at it and I was like, yes, you know, that's her color scheme, that's how she's gonna look. And I posted on Instagram, I posted on my stories and said, you know what, you know, these are the schemes that I came up with so far, what do you think? That's always really nice. So if you're stuck with something, definitely ask someone. And yeah, that's what I ended up with, and I'm very happy with that scheme. Yeah, she definitely turned out different than I expected, but I really like her design. And it's obviously a very simple design. It's not amazingly detailed, but that's what I was going for. I wanted to establish her, like, her base look, her base feeling. And from there on, I can go on and do more designs and kind of refine her design, add things, and but for the first, like, the overall look that I wanted to establish for this character, I think I'm super happy how she turned out. And that's how I designed my character Hedwig. I hope you liked this video, and I hope it was interesting enough and it wasn't just me rambling about, I don't know, character design. You know, I'm still learning. I'm not a professional. I did take character design classes while I was in uni, but I dropped out of uni, so I never fully finished my education. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you this is how you gotta do things and I'm an expert and I know what I'm doing, because to a degree I know what I'm doing, to another degree I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment, what did you think, and if you're new here I would appreciate it if you subscribed, and yeah, there's more fun stuff to come, and I'll see you next week or whenever. Bye.